Everyone, welcome to the channel DevOps Tech Stack. So in this video, we are diving into ArgoCD, and it is a powerful GitOps tool that let you deploy, manage and sync your Kubernetes applications straight from your Git repositories. So by the end of this lecture, you will exactly know how to set up ArgoCD, how to connect it to your project and automate deployments like a pro. So stick around. This is a DevOps skill every Kubernetes engineer should know have in the 2025. So we will start with what is ArgoCD, what is its real use cases, how is it different from the traditional approach what we were following using the Jenkins, and what are its benefits. And by the end of this lecture, we will connect the ArgoCD with one project and we will deploy it using the ArgoCD tool. What is ArgoCD? It is a GitOps tool that is designed for continuously delivery to your Kubernetes cluster. Let's say you have or your application team has made some changes onto the application code. They built the image and they updated the Kubernetes manifest file. So Argo CD will track that changes onto your Git repository and it will automatically deploy that changes onto your Kubernetes cluster. You don't have to do any manual process. Previously with the Jenkins approach, we were running the command like kubectl apply, but now that is not required. Automatically, this ArgoCD is configured with your project and it will deploy those changes onto the Kubernetes cluster directly. You need not to do anything manually over here. It also makes sure that whatever the desired state you have kept on your Git repository, that should match with the Kubernetes cluster. Let's say some user came and they did some manual changes onto the Kubernetes cluster. So it will automatically revert back those changes, and whatever the changes are there on the Git repo, it will match to those changes only. So Argo CD is taking care of that part also. Now let's say without Argo CD, what was happening? We were creating a single Jenkins pipeline, which was responsible for building that particular image, then pushing it to the registries. After that, it will update the Kubernetes manifest file. Let's say you have now the new image tag. So that new image tag you have to update in your Kubernetes manifest file. So those things will be done also by the Jenkins pipeline. After that, Jenkins will run the kubectl apply command manually and your new version will be deployed on the Kubernetes cluster. So in a single Jenkins pipeline, you have configured each of these steps. So basically build image, push to Docker Hub, then update the Kubernetes manifest file. This will come into the continuous integration workflow. And after that, in the continuous deployment workflow, kubectl apply will run manually. Okay. But the drawback here, what happened that you need to have the kubectl command installed on the Jenkins server manually. You are installing that command also. Apart from that, you need to, if say you are using the Helm to deploy any application, then Helm tool also need to be deployed on the Jenkins server. Apart from that, wherever you are deploying, on which Kubernetes cluster you are going to deploy those changes or this particular project, so that for connecting to that Kubernetes cluster, you have to configure the credentials also. Let's say you have the kube config for your Kubernetes cluster. So that kube config secret also you have to configure on the Jenkins server. That is kind of a security breach. So these are few drawbacks which we found that by following the traditional approach using Jenkins, we are getting those issues. So those can be modified if we are using the GitOps model. So that's what I have written over here also, that why Argo CD came into picture. Again, tool installation and setup, that you have to install manually kubectl tool, then you have to install Helm, whatever is required to deploy the changes onto the Kubernetes cluster, those tools you have to install manually on the Jenkins server. If you have to configure the Kubernetes credential, that also you need to do manually onto the Jenkins server. You have to place the kube config, that is kind of the security breach you are doing. Apart from that, once the changes or deployment is done, you can't visualize them. You need to log into the cluster and see for those changes if it is applied or not. But with Argo CD, you are getting a visual UI. Once I will install Argo CD, you will see that we are getting a proper UI where you can see all the changes, whatever you have done. Okay. So these are few of the drawbacks which we got while using the traditional approach. But now with ArgoCD, what happens? It is a kind of continuous deployment tool, right? So with this, what happened that you need to first thing is you need to install ArgoCD onto your cluster. Then you need to connect your ArgoCD to the GitHub repository which you want to track. Let's say for your Java application, you have created one Git repository. So that Git repository URL you have to configure in Argo CD so that it can track the changes whatever you have done onto that repo. After that, once it is configured, Argo CD will continuously monitor your Git repo, and every time there is a change in your Git repo, it will automatically sync those changes onto your Kubernetes cluster. Okay, that we are going to see practically also. So how Argo CD basically works? The very first is you need to deploy Argo CD as an agent on Kubernetes cluster. Okay. If you are deploying the application on the same Kubernetes cluster where Argo CD is installed, that is also fine. But if you want this Argo CD to connect to the another Kubernetes cluster where application is going to be deployed, that is also possible. Okay. So the very first step is you need to deploy Argo CD as an agent on Kubernetes cluster. Now you need to configure the Argo CD to connect to your Git repo, which is holding your Kubernetes manifest file. Let's say for your Java application, there are few deployment files or few service.yaml file. Everything will be placed onto some Git repo, and that Git repo you have to configure in the Argo CD. That is the second step. Let's say your application code is changed by development team. So your CI pipeline, so in case of this one, the CI pipeline is mostly GitHub action. So using the GitHub action, your new image will be built and it will push to the Docker registry. It can be private or public, depends on your project requirement. Okay. So your application team has made some changes, a new image is built, and a new image is built, then it got a new tag also, new image tag, and then it is pushed to the Docker registry. Okay. Now, the CI pipeline also update your Kubernetes manifest file with the new image tag. So for the new application or for the new feature which you have implemented for your application, a new image tag you got, that new image tag you have to update in your Kubernetes manifest file. This will be also done by the CI pipeline. Now Argo CD comes into the picture. It will track the changes whatever is done onto the Git repo. Let's say you have modified the image tag in your Kubernetes manifest file. It will see that there's the changes made to your Git repo because you have already configured it, right? You have connected with your Git repo. So as soon as there is some changes onto your Git repo, it will track those changes and it will automatically deploy that changes onto your Kubernetes cluster. You don't have to do it anything manually, just a one-time configuration to connect with the Git repo. That's it. Now, Argo CD not only watches for changes in the Git repository, but also monitors the actual state of the cluster. Let's say some user has modified something manually on the Kubernetes cluster. So Argo CD will see that this change is not there tracked in the Git repo and it is done manually. So it will automatically revert back those changes and whatever are there on the Git repo, it will just directly make your Kubernetes cluster to that desired state. Okay. Now, what is the benefit of using GitOps with Argo CD? Why we are following now GitOps model, right? So the advantage is that all the Kubernetes manifest file are defined in the single Git repo. That is a single piece of truth. After that, easy rollback. So in case there is some issue in your deployment, automatically you can roll back the changes to the previous commit, whatever is there on the Git side. In case your entire cluster also uh, get destroyed, so you can create a new cluster and directly you can clone or deploy those changes, whatever is there in the Git repo. Okay. Now, since Argo CD runs inside the cluster and pulls the changes, external CI/CD tools like Jenkins no longer need direct access or credentials to the Kubernetes cluster. That I already explained you, right? That let's try to do it practically. One by one, we will do one each of the step. The very first thing is you need to install Argo CD on your cluster. So if you haven't watched my previous lectures, you will see that I have already set up one kind cluster where I'm doing all the labs. So you can refer to that. I will share the link in the description. If you don't have the kind cluster, you can refer that and create a Kubernetes cluster out of that. Okay. Now the next step is on that cluster, you need to create a namespace called Argo CD to deploy Argo CD over there. Okay. kubectl create ns ArgoCD. Okay. This namespace we have created on our client kind cluster. Now, what is the next step? After that, okay. Now, what we are going to do, this is a manifest file which is present on the official site of ArgoCD. You can just see what is there in the install.yaml file. In this YAML file, basically you have all the configuration to install ArgoCD on your Kubernetes cluster. So we are just going to use this manifest file, and we will apply this manifest file in the namespace ArgoCD using the kubectl apply command. Just copy this, paste, and it's done. Just wait for a while. So now just hit kubectl get ns, kubectl get pods in the namespace ArgoCD. Okay, this part is done. Now we want to, it's already in the container creating state, so wait for some time. So now do kubectl get ns, and this ArgoCD we have deployed in ArgoCD namespace. Just do this, and it is up and running. Now we want to visualize the UI for the ArgoCD. So using the port forward, we are going to do it. So before that, before doing that part, let's get the secret for the admin user. Okay. So for that, you have this command. I think this will not work. Let me try once. Okay, it will. Just do it till here. Okay. Yeah. So what we are going to do, here we are fetching the password for the admin user of the ArgoCD. So if you see the secrets in the namespace ArgoCD, you will see that there is one secret called ArgoCD initial admin secret. So we are getting the detail for this particular secret. kubectl, again the namespace is ArgoCD. We are getting the secret value for the secret name is this one, and we are getting the secret data.password. Okay. If you run this command, right, kubectl get secret, copy hyphen -in ArgoCD hyphen o YAML. Okay. Here you are going to see data.password. So this particular value we are fetching in this particular command, and it is in the encoded format. So you need to decode it. It is a base 64 encoded format. So just decode it. I will use online decode base 64. Okay. So this is my value for the admin user of the ArgoCD. So after that, you need to use the port forward to access this particular ArgoCD UI. Let's do it in the new terminal. What is that? Okay, sorry. Okay, yeah. And just open this particular URL. Go to advanced, proceed to this particular URL. And then we have the user admin and password is this one. Okay, that's it. Done, right? After that, once ArgoCD agent is installed on your Kubernetes cluster, you have to create an application for your ArgoCD where you are going to track this particular Git repo. It is a simple Git repository where I am trying to create one deployment file. And in this deployment, I am deploying Nginx web server. So I have to connect my Argo CD to track this particular Git repository. So for that, you need to create an application in the Argo CD namespace. So what is the YAML for your application? This is the API version for the application. Okay, you can check if it is now it is alpha. If it is changing, then refer to the official documentation. You will get the API version for the application in the application CRD in the Argo CD. What is the kind? I'm going to create an application. So application is basically a CRD or a custom Kubernetes resource that tells that what all Git repository it has to track, what is the destination where those changes will be deployed. All those things are configured in the application object of the Argo CD. After that, what is the metadata? Means for this application, what is the name? in which namespace I'm going to deploy this application. So in the namespace where your Argo CD is installed, in that same namespace, we are going to create this application as well. After that, in the specification section, you have to specify everything that which Git repository it has to track, what is the destination where it need to deploy those changes, everything you have to mentioned in the specification section. So the first thing is the project. So by default, all the application, whatever you are creating, everything will go in the default project of the Argo CD. And if you want to create your own project, then you can do that also. But by default, it will go in the default project of the Argo CD. So what is my source? So which particular Git repo I want to track? So this is the repo, right? This repo I want to track. You just go here, code, and copy this URL, and you can mention it over here. That's it. What is the target revision? So every time it will deploy the latest commit, whatever is done on the Git repository that it is going to deploy. So head is the target revision. Which path it need to track? So it needs to track this particular dev path for any changes. If there is changes inside this particular dev path, then it need to deploy onto your cluster. So that's why I have kept dev over here. What is the destination where it need to deploy? So in our case, on the same cluster, I am going to deploy this particular application. So by default, if you are deploying onto the same Kubernetes cluster where Argo CD is installed, so this is the URL you need to use. So if you see over here, kubectl get svc. So by default, this is the service on which I want to deploy my application. So that I'm using it over here. And in which namespace I want to deploy? So I want to deploy my application in the new namespace called as the My App. You can create, you can mention any other namespace also, but I want to deploy on the namespace My App. After that, these things are basically related to the Argo CD itself. So these are few flags where I'm giving that if in case my app namespace does not exist, then create that particular namespace. After that, in the automated, we have put some more flags that self heal is true, prune is true. So what does that mean? So self-heal matlab if you are making any changes onto the Kubernetes cluster directly, then those changes will be revert back and the changes whatever there are in the Git repo, those will be applied. So that is self-heal is true. Prune means if Argo CD will delete those resources from the cluster that are no longer defined in the Git. Okay. Let's say if you have removed one service.yaml file from your Git repo and that is not required. So Argo CD will automatically delete that particular resource from your Kubernetes cluster. So these things we have mentioned over here. So this is a simple application.yaml file which is connecting to your Kubernetes cluster where you are going to deploy the application and is also connecting to the GitHub repository which it needs to track. So just this apply this particular YAML file. Since already we have mentioned the namespace is Argo CD where it is going to be created, so you don't need to do anything. You just have to apply this file. kubectl apply -f done. Now just go over here and see it's already came, right? Sorry, there is some error repository not found. But it is a public repo, right? Or no? Public, yeah. Then why? Oh, sorry. Dot gets it is. Again, try. Okay. So yeah. Now the deployment is happening. Everything is done, right? So just go to the kubectl get pods -n my app. Okay. So your Nginx deployment has been completed. Okay. So any changes, whatever you have made onto your Git repo, that will be tracked by your Argo CD application, and this will be automatically deployed. So now let's say I am changing the replica to 2 and this change should automatically be tracked by ArgoCD and it should be deployed onto the cluster. So just make this replica as 2 and wait for at least I think 3 minutes is the default time. And after that, you can see that only 2 replicas should be up and running for this application. If you want to wait, then also it is fine. Otherwise, you can click on the manual sync and sync it with the revision that is pointing to head and synchronize it. Okay. And give it some time. You will see that 2 replica is up and running now. Just hit enter. See, right? Only 2 replicas are now running. So this automatic sync is also happening using the flags, whatever you have enabled onto the application set. Application. Okay. So that's it for today lecture. I hope you understand all about ArgoCD and it is going to help you to deploy your application smoothly. In case of any doubt, please let me know in the comment section. I will try to revert back on those in your comments as well. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Thank you.